Welcome to the Unveiled Epoch Echoes channel. Today, we're diving deep into an unexplored historical mystery. In the quiet valleys of western Massachusetts, where fog rolls across old stone walls and rivers whisper against roots that have held the soil for centuries, there once stood a school that appeared on no official map, a school that left no photographs in yearbooks, no plaques on town halls, and no graduates listed in any state registry. Yet its influence drifted through the American story like an invisible current beneath the surface of a calm lake. A place known only in hushed conversations as the Halcyon Institute, founded in 1872 at the end of a winding dirt road beyond a forest of ancient elms. Built from dark timber and granite hauled from the nearby hills by men who were never recorded as laborers and paid in coin minted in no known American city. And from the outside, it looked like any other preparatory academy of its era, with tall windows, a bell tower, and long corridors lit by soft amber lamps. Yet what it taught inside was said to be knowledge that had crossed oceans long before the Mayflower. Knowledge whispered through ancient desert libraries and carved into cave walls long before the rise of Rome. Knowledge that many believed should never have been rediscovered, let alone taught to children. And it began when a young historian named Daniel Mercer arrived in the town in the fall of 1931, seeking records of early colonial settlements, only to discover that the town archives contained a sealed cabinet that had not been opened in nearly 50 years, its iron handle cold with time and its lock stamped with an unfamiliar sigil. And when the clerk reluctantly allowed Daniel access, he found a ledger listing tuition payments made not in dollars, but in rare minerals, antique books, and mechanical devices described only as instruments of perception, all addressed to the Halcyon Institute, though no such school appeared in any census or land deed. And as the days passed, Daniel spoke to elderly residents who remembered children in gray uniforms walking silently into the forest at dawn, returning only after sunset with expressions too solemn for their age. And some recalled faint humming sounds drifting through the trees at night, as though the earth itself were breathing in slow, rhythmic pulses. And one woman spoke of her brother who attended the school for 3 years before returning home unable to sleep unless every window in the house was covered, claiming that the sky was not as empty as it seemed. And drawn by equal parts curiosity and dread, Daniel followed the old road one evening as mist pooled low over the ground. And there it was, the Institute standing silent and untouched as though time had politely stepped around it, its doors unlocked, its halls dustless despite decades of abandonment. And on the blackboards in its classrooms were diagrams not of arithmetic or grammar, but of constellations arranged in unfamiliar patterns, geometric spirals that seemed to twist inward endlessly, and maps of coastlines that did not match any continent known to modern geography. And in the library, he found shelves lined with books bound in materials that felt neither like leather nor cloth, filled with lessons on languages no anthropologist had ever catalogued, treatises on natural forces described as living currents flowing through stone and water, and historical accounts of civilizations that flourished thousands of years before the accepted dawn of human society, each text annotated by instructors who believed that American progress depended not on forgetting the ancient world, but on mastering it. And yet woven through these teachings were warnings that knowledge carried weight, and that certain truths could fracture the mind like glass beneath sudden pressure. And deeper within the Institute, Daniel discovered a lecture hall beneath the main building, its circular walls etched with symbols that seemed to shift when viewed from the corner of the eye, where a massive orrery hung from the ceiling, not depicting planets, but moving shadows that orbited an unseen center. and beside it lay student journals describing experiments in perception that allowed them to hear vibrations beneath spoken words and to sense the movement of storms days before they formed. And as Daniel read, he realized that the Institute had not merely taught forgotten knowledge, but had trained its students to see reality as layered, to understand that history was less a straight line and more a web of repeating patterns stretching back into myth. And the climax of the journals described an event in 1904 when the senior class completed what was called the opening, an attempt to align the Institute's underground chamber with a cycle in the night sky that occurred once every 3 centuries, after which several students vanished without a trace, while others claimed to remember centuries of memory in a single instant. And fearing that such practices could alter the course of the nation, the Institute's founders sealed the school, erasing it from records and dispersing its remaining texts among private collections. But Daniel's presence in the lecture hall seemed to stir something dormant as the orrery began to turn slowly of its own accord, casting moving shadows across the symbols that pulsed with faint light. And in that moment, he understood that the knowledge taught there had never truly disappeared, only waited for someone curious enough to listen. And as dawn approached, he left the Institute knowing that some mysteries were meant not to be solved, but to be remembered quietly, like dreams that fade with the morning light yet linger just enough to shape the day ahead. And in the years that followed, he would publish nothing of what he found, though readers of his later works often remarked on an unusual depth in his understanding of time and memory, as if he had glimpsed something beyond the accepted boundaries of history. Something vast and patient resting beneath the foundations of the modern world. This mysterious journey ends here, but stay tuned for more untold stories in our next video. Subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon so you don't miss any new stories. Thank you, and see you again.